Hello, hello. Welcome back to our weekly transits. And before I dive into the transits, I want you to notice how tight of a chart we have. What we're moving into, a wedge chart, so to speak. Just ignore the moon because it's going to move in and join this. But if we have from the beginning of Pluto, where Pluto's at, the beginning of this little thing I'm going to share with you, at 1 degree, we've got a tight arrangement of grouping. So we would count 30 degrees as we go all through Aquarius, 30 degrees all through Pisces, 30 degrees all through Aries, and then we have the last planet there, 19 degrees in Taurus. So that would be 30, 60, 90 plus 19, 109 degrees. So it's not even quite a third of a chart. The third of a chart would be 120 degrees. So we're less than that. We're 109. That's pretty tight. We haven't had kind of this, this is a really tight one. We had in 2020, we had that real tight grouping over in Capricorn, area. So it's tight again, but it's in a different part of the chart. So with the moon right now traveling through Capricorn, today pretty much is a lot of moon day. But when we have this tight of a chart, we don't have trines. We definitely don't have oppositions. We don't have inconjuncts or the quincunx. So it's a very, very interesting. And then those of you born on these types, on these days with this chart, you don't have those things. You don't have, those aspects. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? We also, with this one, we don't even have, there's nothing that's even at a square right here, right now, because Pluto would be the 1 degree, the sign would be squaring this sign, but we don't have anything quite there. We got close. Look at Mars is at 16, getting close to square Uranus, right? It's going to be, we're going to see this week. But just so you can just jump ahead with your mind, and you see Venus just got done squaring over here at Uranus. You see it's 22. It's like 3 degrees past. It was a few days ago. We talked about it last week. So Mars is going to, it's going to follow and do that same thing. But you can see these charts, and if we were, if it were even tighter, like right now, Pluto is going to be the marker on one end because it moves so slow. And it'll waffle back and forth, a little bit more, one more time into Capricorn, and then back over there. So it's just going to widen just a little bit, but you can see this type of chart that we have right now. So be aware of that. Also, what I think is very interesting, we can see the outer planets. Starting with Neptune here. Well, Pluto just changed. Okay, so it's still going to waffle like back to 0 or 29 Capricorn, and then another year or so before it's really back in here to stay for 20 years ish. So that we're going to have a whole different world in a couple of years. So we have this one will be changing. Okay, Pluto. Let me mark this one out. And then Neptune, you can see it's at the end of a sign. It's 26 degrees. And this year, it'll travel all the way to 29 something, and then it'll go back and when it goes retrograde. So it's almost at the end. I think it's February 2026, I believe. It moves into Aries. Let me go to this one. By the time it enters 0 degrees Aries, Saturn will have finished its travel through Pisces, like about another year, and it will join Neptune when they both will walk into Aries together. They'll both be at a conjunct at 0 degrees Aries. So a little, year and a half-ish. I think it's that February. I'll have to double check. But anyway, and then we have Uranus. Then you have Uranus here at 19 Taurus, and this is more than halfway through its sign. So within the next couple of years, Uranus will change signs into Gemini, and then you can see Jupiter is at 12 degrees Taurus, but it, it just finished its retrograde. It's moving forward. It will fly through the rest of Taurus and then enter Gemini. So just to recap, we'll have in this next couple years almost, except for the inner planets, which change all the time. You can't say, we're not counting Mercury, Venus, or Mars, because they change faster. But all the other planets within 2 years will have changed signs. And we're counting Pluto because it's waffling. It's changing, it's going to go back into Capricorn and then back into Aquarius. So Pluto changes signs. Saturn will again travel all the way through Pisces and meet up with Neptune when they both go into Aries together. Jupiter will finish through Taurus and move into Gemini this year. And Uranus will finish, the next couple of years will finish through Taurus and it'll move into Gemini. So we're going to have a different world. I just want to point that out because, we have a little wedge, it's all tight, but then everything is changing. So just to point that out right now, before we kind of go on with this week's transits, because of this wedge chart, and again, just ignore the moon, but notice how tight, I think I've pointed this out before, but it's, in these signs here that it's pretty tight, and it's just a 109 degree wedge, what we have here. So we're getting an intense part of this beginning, the endings and then new beginnings energy. And when we get these planets moving, when the planets move into Aries and Gemini and Aquarius, we have a lot of fire and air energies happening, right? So we're going to kind of switch modes on that. Anyway, just a note, just a little foreshadowing of things to come. All right, back to this week, kind of go from far to close. We've got the moon. It's going to be traveling, in this sector. We'll have it, today, starting out in Capricorn, and then we move all the way through Aries into next week. So let's move on ahead. Today, pretty much, it's a lot of moon aspects today, but we do have one annoying thing. We have a half a square with Pluto and the sun. And the reason I really want to point this out, I don't do a lot of the minor aspects because there's so many of the others, but I want you to see this because of the math. You can do some of these things in your head. See, this is at 1 degree Aquarius. And if we go all the way through Aquarius, that's 30 degrees, right? Because every sign is 30 degrees. So just write down 30 or put it in your head. And then from like 0 degrees over to 15 where the sun is, that's 15 plus 30 is 45. It's a half a square. Half a squares are, they're tense like a square, but just a little different. It's more of a, what would you call it? A friction. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's friction. So sometimes it's not as bad as annoyance, but it's just a little friction. Sometimes, and that's like yours, the sun getting hit with that a little bit of depth there. Maybe some things are a little not type of smooth, but it's just kind of the major aspect for today, because there's not really a lot of other things totally there yet. You can see this semi-sextile over here, and things aren't totally lined up, but they'll come. They will line up. All right, going to tomorrow, moving Wednesday, we'll have the moon, it's finishing up in Capricorn. So whenever we got the moon in Capricorn, it's kind of like, business, ma'am, it's just a business. We're not going to go into the feeling mode yet. We're going to just take care of business. Keep the emotions in, keep the place locked down, keep the heart under check, get things done. And it's kind of a colder aspect, and then it moves into another Saturn ruled sign. But look, every time the moon, every time it changes out of Capricorn into Aquarius, we're gonna have to go deal with Pluto. So moon's gonna go over Pluto. So don't freak out if you get some kind of emotions or feelings coming up from the depths, tomorrow, or something kind of coming up, bringing something up to you, maybe bringing something up to your emotions, for everybody on some level. If you have anything, these degrees is a little bit louder for you. What else do we have this day? I don't usually mention Chiron a lot too. I don't even have it on here, but there's a lot of talk about it. So Mars is sextiling Chiron, which is kind of nice. It's maybe giving some energy to healing old wounds. And I want to say that because of the Pluto coming, the moon going over Pluto might be bringing up some things like that for people. So yeah, good chance to heal that. Good chance to heal it. All right, moving on. Moving on, Thursday, we kind of got a quirky moon day. Now, moon moves into Aquarius. Again, not a lot of other aspects that really happening. We're getting close. Actually, we had Mars to the node. Yes, the day before we go back, we have that. So that's 2 signs apart. So Mars to the north node, maybe giving drive and energy, a little bit of, I can do this for the all. This is good for all. A little drive and energy and good for all, because those are nice. Those are a nice aspect. All right, we're back to Thursday. So Thursday again, it's kind of a quirky moon day. It's like kind of the main aspect. And the moon is just going to be kind of sandwiched in between the 2 malefics here. Ooh. But it's in calm, cool Aquarius. So this is if the moon is going to be between 2 malefic planets, it'd be good to be calm and cool. It's like the moon sitting there smoking a cigarette. Is this going between this? Like, I'm cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's got to keep a front here. But anyway, so your emotions, again, it may be, you might be dealing with some of the things that are coming up in a much more calm, adult, reserved manner. You might be like, okay, let's just get this out of the way. Let's just process this out. Let me do my shadow work. Let's just get rid of this garbage once and for all. So anyway, that's the kind of thing that's going to be happening maybe Thursday, because yeah, no other, the moon is really the only thing that's kind of happening to start with as we're building up toward our new moon. You can see the moon is getting closer to the sun. And we all know, we're good astrologers, we know that when the sun and the moon are next to each other, it's a new moon. So what should we be doing on this? It's like increasing darkness of the moon. It's like getting rid of the old stuff, getting rid of the things you don't need to, finishing up things, tying off loose ends, cleaning, getting rid of things, because then when the sun and moon join up, it's ready to start a whole new cycle again, let's get something new. So it's time to finish as much up as we can. These are monthly things. This isn't the whole year or years or something. So these are these little mini cycles within cycles, moon cycles. All right, so Thursday, pretty much that quirky moon day. And then we go into Friday. Now we've got Mercury, we're over here, and let me just go back a couple hours. There we go. Okay. So we see Mercury conjuncting Neptune in Pisces. All right. I had to say that because it's different. If it wasn't in that sign, it'd be different. And then Pisces is, where Neptune likes to be. But Mercury could get a little overwhelmed, a little swampy. It's, not the best place for Mercury. Mercury's weak there. It's like, it's opposite. It's like it's fallen detriment there. It wants to be in Virgo or Gemini, and when it's exalted, it's in Virgo. So it's fall in Pisces, and it's in its detriment in Pisces too. So, not the best place for Mercury, but Mercury can be intuitive here. So this is kind of a mixed bag. It can be dreamy and intuitive, and connecting with your higher source and your higher self and getting new ideas, dreaming in and pulling in what you need before we start the new moon. But also don't get ahead of yourself. It's like, it's not, because we have this contact with Neptune, you should always have a little thing in the back of your head that goes, deception. It's too good to be true. Not that we can't act on things, that are good, but not to be disillusioned. And again, because Mercury, the mind, the logic, is in its fall and detriment, it's not on its game. It's like, when you just woke up as opposed to having your first cup of coffee, you're a totally different animal when you first wake up until after that cup of coffee. So think about it that way. Mercury has just woke up here, and it's like, feeling like that rather than like it wants to be. So just kind of watch that. Make sure that you're not bamboozled, talked into something, or the other way around. Don't bamboozle somebody else or try to pass off your beliefs or talk, talk things that you can't prove, or somebody else is talking things that they can't prove. Just be aware of that because coming into Friday, I mean, it could be all week. It's not going to be just bing happen on Friday, but that's where it's exact. But it could be happening all week, and as it gets closer, just watch that. I like to help people with the weird Neptune stuff that comes along. Then the moon, then it'll finish up here. Let me go back to days, and then the next day it'll move into Pisces, or later that day it moves into Pisces. And then look at this big group here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counting the moon, we got a big group of 5. 4 planets, or sun and moon and 3 planets in Pisces. Wow, what a dreamy time. What a time, to just maybe pull in and practice intuitive skills, practice, sharpening your intuition, decalcifying your pineal gland, drinking distilled water, turning off your electromagnetic fields. Don't put stuff by your head. Protect yourself psychically, protect yourself from people that may take advantage of you. And then use this time to dream and to pull things in for yourself, because this, the Piscean is sweet. It's also the endings. It's also dissolving. So things that you don't want, it's time to dissolve or banish that with all this Pisces, all this water energy. Okay. Anything else on Saturday? Well, Mars is over here. We got a couple of things. We got just a semi-sextile with the sun, but then we also have it over to Uranus. And let's see, we've got, 1, 2. So we got a sextile. Okay, so the sun is sextiling Uranus, and then we have Mars squaring Uranus. So Uranus has got a push-pull. Uranus has got a square from Mars. Okay, so that's the one malefic is kind of upsetting, and then it's also got the sextile from the sun. So sun is nicey, Mars isn't. So what could that be? Let's just break it down. Mars, aggressive, driven, anger, anxious, and then with Uranus, and then the square, sudden upset, or you could be driven to force something. It's like instead of waiting for the breakthrough, you might force it. So be careful of that. The sun, if you align more with the sun, you can allow the breakthrough. Just don't push too hard or be too aggressive. Back to that, that Mercury with Neptune. It's like, be careful if you're proselytizing some things you can't back up or prove, because the Mars and the Neptune, the Mars square Uranus could catch you. It's like somebody could catch you on something, or you could catch somebody else that's BSing you on something with that. So if you come from your heart, you come from the higher place, and you've been working on your intuition, the sun energy should feel that. Let's work for sudden breakthroughs, not hammering your idea down somebody's throat or forcing it down their throat. So just kind of watch that a little bit. And to make things worse that day, let me go back to hours. Stick. Okay. Mercury is flying really fast, and they were we're still here, and beep, 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 beep. Just want to stop trying to see 2 things here. Here's Mercury. Almost. Mercury's going to move into Aries. I just want to see it's still there. Let's see if it goes. It's sun has set, so all the plants have gone underneath now. I'm trying to get, so it should be almost there. Right there. Okay. So East Coast time, it's like an hour before midnight. So it's almost on the 10th. All right, so let me just advance this back, and then just go back a few hours. Oh, darn, I didn't want to do that. Okay, let's go the 9th. I want to get them up on top for you. put them back up here. I think they're easier to see. All right, let's go back to days. Sorry. Okay, so here, back on back on Saturday. So it's like an hour before midnight East Coast time. West Coast time would be like the next day. We'll see Mercury change signs into Aries. So Mercury's just like can't wait to bust out of this pack. So let's not let it hang there any longer. Okay, so now it's there. It's like, oh, I can speak my mind. You know, I'm out of that place. I feel just like, I'm in my detriment and fall. Ew, you know, it's not happy. So anyway, it might feel like quite a difference between Saturday and Sunday, actually. You know, because we have earlier that day, you know, we've got the new moon, and you can see it's just past it. So I have it at noon here, just a little bit after noon. So it's earlier in the morning. I think it's like 6 or 5 something in the morning. Actually, let me show it to you. I just like you to see it. It's at 20. There it is. Yeah, I thought it was about 6 in the morning. Okay, so there we go. It's right there, and then Mercury's already gone ahead. So interesting. It's going to kind of feel like very different, I think, from one day to the next. You know, it's like we've got the new moon lining up, but then now we've got Mercury and it can think, and it can act, and it can get some energy going with all of that mucky, you know, Piscean energy, all that wet, muddled, dissolving energy. Now Mercury can just kind of like, whew, you know, I had all that seaweed in my mouth. Now I can talk. Now I can get all the stuff off my hands. Now I can gesture. Now I can communicate. My computer's back online. Woohoo! So it's going to feel quite different. And, you know, right at that new moon, you know, that I think the Mercury moving into Aries will give us the mental clarity. So I think we'll be in a little bit of a fog kind of until that happens. So if you're mentally not on your game, or a little foggy, or not feeling that ambitious until like late Saturday or Sunday, blame it on all of that. Blame it on all this Pisces stuff. So it's going to get going. And I think our mental want and drive and your intellect and things are going to start kicking up here a little bit. All right, what else here? I think that's all. Let me go back to days. All right, so that was a lot, you know, with that new moon. So we've got the new moon, and then look at Venus is about to change signs there too. It's going to move. So it's funny, Mercury moved out before Venus moved in. That might have been kind of much. It might have been real modeling if all that was there. All right, let's move on. Monday. Let's go over. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you about. Well, I did. So let me go back real quick. When the moon was going, let me go back one more. Moon was moving here, moving into that. It was, you know, we had the moon going over Saturn, you know, late Saturday. So we had a lot of moon aspects this week. So moon here, you know, is going over Saturn. So Saturday here, it's just like 6 in the morning, you know, after the Saturday, before the moon gets over to the new moon, it's going to go over kind of Saturn. So that might be kind of sad, or it might dredge up some things. And then we'll get the new moon, and a lot of the energy will change because, you know, see, we have the moon will be in Pisces, and it might be kind of model in here too. And then going with Mercury still here. So I forgot to tell you that. So that's just another thing, you know, then the moon has got to travel over all of that. So it's just, but the moon doesn't mind that. It's, you know, it's that changeable, it's swimming, it's in a sister sign, right? It's in a water sign, but it still could dredge up a lot for people. All right, so here back to Sunday, am I back on days? Yeah, okay. And actually I want to get this up top a little bit for you. There we go. Just easier to see. All right, so we did that Sunday, so now let's move, coming into Monday. Venus now is about ready to move. Look at, she's 29 degrees, you know, in the afternoon, and then it's a little bit later that she'll move into Pisces. Try to get it here. Should be right there. Okay, so late in the day Monday, you know, in the evening, East Coast time, there we have Venus moving into Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. If it's not in its home sign of Taurus or Libra, it's like one is its masculine side, one's its feminine side, then it wants to be in Pisces. So this is a nice place for Venus. I have to still warn, it could make the whole rest of the soup of Pisces a bit more maudlin, a bit more soupy, sappy, Sarah Bernhardt, dramatic, but it's nice too. It's, Venus in that exalted Pisces. It could be very sweet, very nice. So just a little bit of that. Make sure that we don't just get too sappy. There we go, and sound insincere. That's just maybe just a little bit of the danger of that. And then, as it goes over Saturn, well, Saturn is kind of dissolving there in Pisces, and then it could be a nice heart. It could be like giving somebody a puppy or a kitty, or somebody giving you a kitty or puppy kind of energy. It's sweet. Let's try to stay kind of in the positive of the sweet natured of that, and activate that sweet side of ourselves before we're going to get all this, before we rush into the Aries stuff. Pretty soon we're going to get into Aries season. And then we'll get a taste of kind of what's coming a little bit in a couple of years when we have those, Saturn and Neptune move into Aries. So get a little taste of it every month, when the moon goes through that, and how to handle that fast-paced, aggressive kind of energy. All right, so just to recap, tight chart. We don't have any trines, oppositions, inconjuncts. We've got, a lot of, things, conjunctions, half squares, that are kind of friction because of that 45-degree angle, and sextiles. I said that, conjunctions, coming up to a few squares, and then a lot of stuff in the Piscean area. So again, be careful of being fooled, bamboozled, maybe being convinced of somebody trying to convince you of something, or you trying to convince somebody of something on just emotions, on just without any intellect. So one thing, if you're saying I intuited this, or I'm pulling in something, as opposed to saying it like it's a matter of fact, like it's a fact. So just have that little bit of a distinction on that. And that's our week. And just get ready for understanding, how everything is moving. Again, just last recap from what we started with, in a couple of years, everything, all these outer planets will have changed. And that's kind of unusual that we'll have that much different in such a short time. The inner planets change all the time, but we'll have, Jupiter will be in, Jupiter changes signs every year. It's like a year and just a little bit, whatever, but that's okay. But anyway, still happening, Jupiter, and then Saturn will change signs, and then Uranus will change signs, Neptune, and then Pluto will be, firmly in Aquarius. So yeah, the world will be quite a different place. So right now it's important to educate yourself, educate others, build community. This whole mess that we're in, that the world is in, especially, the United States, but the world too, it's bound to turn around. It can't go on like this. It's like, in tarot, if you look at the major arcana, it goes devil, and then the tower. They follow each other. So the devil is like, these are these things that aren't right. This is the stuff that's just wrong. This is temptation. This is not following your inner voice. This is doing something that shouldn't be, being seduced, doing the wrong thing, being under somebody's thumb. It's like, all that nasty stuff, the devil, temptation. And then if you don't get reins on it, it's like you get, the universe, God, karma, whatever, what goes around comes around, happens. Then the tower happens. It's like, like, nope, you've been bad boy long enough. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, kind of a thing. So that's the danger, but that's the time that we're moving into. And, it's important to see this ahead of time. I know we're week by week, but we got to sometimes, climb up a tree and get a big view and then climb back down because we're we can only see and handle so much information in front of us at one time. But build community, talk to people. We have to make this a better place, this whole planet. We all know that there's a lot of stuff that's not right, that there's a lot of lies, that we're moving into some, strange directions, that there's controls by power sources that need not be. When the head of a corporation is bigger than a country, when just heads of countries talk amongst themselves, we're starting to wise up to a lot of these evil ways and change this. So this is definitely a big deal. All right, got off my soapbox, but we've got these cycles within cycles happening, and just thought I'd point that one out. All righty, hope you enjoyed that, and hope you had a chance to look at your chart and look at some of the days. We talked about in the last, not the transit, but the other episode week before, on how to find your best days. If you hadn't looked at those videos, that's really good. So every year, when your sun is conjunct your sun, or when the sun is, opposite your sun, when the sun is in conjunct your sun, the transiting sun I'm speaking of, because those are good times to know. It's like you'll know when the sun is opposite your sun. It's like if I'm Aries, then the sun is opposite when it's in Libra. And then the sign on either side of Libra is an inconjunct or a quincunx to my Aries. So it's kind of like you get 3 crappy months sort of in a row, or stressful or hard, or something like it's not quite flowing with your inner self. So anyway, those are good to know. And it's also good to know the times a year that you get your squares, your sun squares. Again, I'm an Aries, so I get them on the cardinal points. So, in Cancer, then I get, a square to my sun there. And then in Capricorn, I get the other square to my sun. And then it's good to note your trine times. And again, I got to use my birthday's example because it's easier. Aries, so all the fire signs would be my sister trine signs. So if I'm an Aries, then I know when the sun is at, in Leo, that's a little bit more flowing of that fire energy to me. I'm more fired up. I can, do more. I'm more active. And same thing with when it's in Sagittarius. So you just take yours, and that those times of year are either a green light go or like a red light no. And it's like, it's clockwork. It is a clock. It is a clockwork. And it's good to know. We should know this. We should learn this like 1st and 2nd grade. So we know every year that these dates and times, things are either for us or against us. Things are flowing for you or they're not. And, it's like, okay, this is a time of year that, I'm weak. So I'm not going to try to force and do this stuff. I'm not, it's like, if you have to, you have to. But if you don't have to, then don't. It's like, I'm better over here, better at these times. Not that you can always do that, but it's still good to know. All right, that's it for today. Talk to you all next week. Bye for now.